Hey gamers, what's up? So, big news today, and it's funny, it's ironic. I'd shot footage earlier today with my thoughts on the Xbox One because I had so many people asking me, what do you think? They've been messaging me, they've been emailing me, asking me my thoughts on it. Are you going to do a video? And I'd shot the footage and I was getting ready to edit it and put it out, and sure enough, the big announcement comes from Microsoft changing all of their policies. I mean, we shouldn't even call this the Xbox One anymore. We should call it the Xbox 180 because I've never in my life, in my experience in video games, seen a company do such a massive turnaround. And I gotta assume it's got nothing to do with what they think is right. It's just a business decision. They saw the gamers freaking out. They felt the backlash. They were dealing with the fallout, and it's been a PR nightmare for Microsoft, and they did what they had to do to get people to have faith in their machine, especially after the bombshell at E3 where Sony comes out and says, hey, you can trade games, you can share games on our system, and you can't do that on the Xbox One. And really, when it comes right down to it, that's the reason behind it. Now, for those of you who may not know already, the requirement would be the system has to check in every 24 hours. That's gone now. Basically, the constant internet connection is gone. And sure, it didn't have to constantly be connected originally, but it had to be constantly connected if it was going to validate your software every 24 hours. And the problem with that was evident, and anyone who didn't see it is just foolish or blind. Next up, they are letting us now sell, trade, loan our games out the way we normally would, the way it should be. And I'm really, really glad about this. Let me tell you, my original video, my original footage that I guess won't get released now, was something that I put a lot of thought into. And I mean, I labored over what I was going to do this coming generation of gaming. And really what it came right down to was I wasn't going to buy an Xbox One. There was no way. After 12 years of supporting the Xbox brand, after 7 years of paying for Xbox Live Gold, building my gamer score, being a proponent of the system, telling everyone this is a great system, and supporting Microsoft, I was going to drop them cold. I just wasn't willing to lay down $500 on a console that wasn't going to give me the freedom to truly own the games I buy. And that's all I ever wanted. I'm a video game collector. I consider myself a bit of a video game historian. And owning these games and being able to play them 10, 20, even 30 years down the road is very important to me. And with this console, that was not going to be a possibility. There was no way Microsoft was going to support this 24-hour check-in, this validation forever. Someday it would have stopped, and someday every game for that system would have been completely worthless and unplayable. Now we're going to have that ability, and that's really all I ever asked from a console. I want my ability to keep my games forever, and yes, sell and trade my games as I have the right to do. I mean, let's not forget, First Sale Doctrine says we own what we buy. And we're allowed to do with that as we please. We're allowed to find value. And what Microsoft was doing was taking that value away from us. And that was just unacceptable. So there was no way on this earth that I was going to buy into the Xbox One. I already pre-ordered a PS4. And that's saying something. I don't even pre-order consoles. And what's really saying something is that I've owned every console since the Nintendo 64 on launch day. The 64 was the first console I ever went and waited in line for. I went to Toys R Us, I waited in line, I got it on launch day. And it was such a great feeling that every time a console has launched since, I've done that. Every single console. Except for the Xbox One. It was going to be the one that broke the chain. I was not going to put down the money for that system. And now maybe I can. Now I want to keep my eye on Microsoft. They've lost my trust. I'm going to watch them, and I'm going to be sure that the product I'm getting is the product I want. Microsoft has really hurt themselves with this. I mean, you already have a console that's $100 more expensive than the PS4, and probably just about as powerful. I mean, let's face it, one isn't going to be that much more powerful than the other either way. So you're charging an extra $100 for what? For a cable box functionality, for a Kinect, well, I could lose either of those functions and I would be completely happy with it. I wouldn't care if those were gone. All I want is a game console. That's all I ever wanted. I want something that I put a game in and I play. And that's what makes me happy as a gamer. The fact is, I'm paying extra $100 for the system for those things, and I don't want them. And it's a shame. I said the same thing when the PS3 came out. I didn't want a Blu-ray player. They were forcing me to buy it, and I was very unhappy with that. And I'm very unhappy with this about the Xbox One. I just think it's ridiculous, and I think it's going to hurt Microsoft in the long run, because we all know when it comes right down to it, price is king. So we've covered a lot there. Word directly from Microsoft is that there will no longer be 24-hour check-ins. All the games on the system will operate just as games on the 360 do. You can put them in, you can play them offline, online, doesn't matter. No codes, no restrictions, no DRM, as it should be. Region locks have been disabled, which I think is pretty cool. I was just talking to a friend, Darren, over at Warp Zone, who loves Japanese import games and was really bummed out that he wasn't going to be able to play any on his Xbox One. And now he will be able to. So Darren, all right, you get to play your games. And I think another big thing that I'm really concerned about is, since EA dropped Online Pass, and I mean, let's face it, they said, we're doing this because the consumer has spoken and because we listen to what the consumer has to say, and we're dropping the Online Pass, blah, blah, blah. But I think really what was happening, I think that was deception. I think that was a lie. I think they saw the future of gaming was, this functionality that was going to take our ownership away from us, and all this, locking out used game stuff. I think they were going hand in hand with Microsoft in a whole new scheme to earn money and to keep used games out of the hands of gamers. And now that that's not going to happen the way that we thought it was going to happen, what's EA going to do? Keep an eye on EA. Do not trust EA. Expect the worst from EA, because I'm really curious, and I don't think that they're just going to let this slide. I figure there's going to be something worse than Online Pass in the future, and we're going to find out what it is. So be ready to hate on EA a little more in the future, but hey, who knows? Maybe I'm wrong. I mean, I was wrong about the whole Xbox One announcement. What was that, May 21st? I expected one thing. I've never been so wrong in a prediction in my life. I never expected, and I said it in that video, for Microsoft to do an always-on system, for Microsoft to lock out used games, they'd have to be nuts. They'd have to be mad. It would be suicide. The gamers would never stand for it, and look what happened. Actually, it's funny. It's a testament to the voice and the power of the gamer. I've said it before in past videos. If we yell on our own, okay, maybe we won't be heard. But if we all shout together as a community of gamers, hundreds of millions strong, our voice will be heard. And maybe EA heard it when they dropped the Online Pass, maybe not. But this thing with Microsoft definitely shows that this is 100% true. We got out there, we tweeted, we wrote articles, we blogged, we shot videos, we did all this, and Microsoft had no choice but to listen, because they knew that without us, without our dollars, without our wallets, they were going to fail. I really think Microsoft was going to have their collective ass kicked by Sony this gen with these restrictions, and now they've taken them away, because I think they saw that too. And this is coming from an Xbox guy, okay? Don't forget, I'm not some Sony fanboy. I've been vocal about my displeasure with the PS3 this gen, and I won't say otherwise. I still don't think the PS3 is the console it should have been. But I really thought the Xbox One was going to be the biggest disappointment in video game history. And they fixed it for the most part, so I'm glad to see that. And that's really about it. So it looks like I'll be able to get an Xbox One if this stays the way it is, if we know that Microsoft is going to do the right thing. It's funny because I did pre-order a PS4. I've never pre-ordered a system before. I normally just went and picked it up on day one, but I was so upset with what Microsoft was doing, I actually went out and pre-ordered a PS4. So I'm glad I'll be getting both, and I'm glad I'll be able to have them both on my shelf side by side, because that's what I do. That's the kind of gamer I am. I enjoy all the consoles, and I want to play all the exclusives. I never understood people who say, Xbox sucks or PlayStation sucks and I won't own it, because every game console has great games. there's always going to be those exclusives you want to play. I don't care if it's a Wii U, an Xbox, or a PS4. Every system's going to have those exclusive games that are worth playing. You're a fool if you say otherwise. You're no kind of gamer, in my opinion, if you say otherwise. So I think the only real good excuse not to own all the systems is, I just can't afford them, because it is an expensive thing to do, to buy all three. I'm not going to hate on a console just because I don't like the company's practices. And let's face it, every company has done something we don't like. Microsoft has, Sony has, and Nintendo kind of has. But for the most part, I've been happy with Nintendo. But let's remember and let's stay diligent. Let's watch Microsoft and watch Sony, because this is only one battle won. It's not the war. The war is yet to come. Next gen, and I know it's 8 years away. We're just going into the 8th gen. But that 9th generation of gaming could be a whole nother thing. And I'm expecting consoles with no disk drives. I'm expecting strictly digital distribution. But we'll see what happens. And when there is no option for physical media, when there is no console that offers me the ability to own my games, then I guess I'll have to fall in line. But as long as there's just one console that allows me to game the way I love to game, then that's going to be my choice every time. This generation, it looks like it'll be all three. So that's it. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you all soon. If you haven't already, please do subscribe. Check me out at nerdco.com. Check out Nerdco on Twitter and on Facebook. And check out L1 Games on Facebook. And I'm out of here. I'm not going to let myself be fooled into thinking that this is just the end of it. Oh, Microsoft saw the error of their ways. Now, we've seen Microsoft's colors here. They're true colors. And we got to remember, this is what Microsoft wants for the future of gaming. So don't be complacent. Don't just say, oh, well, okay, this is great. Now everything's done and over with and we'll never have to worry about it again, because this is a worry for the future. But if nothing else, what's just happened is a testament to the strength that gamers have, the voice of the gamers. Microsoft has lost a little bit of my faith, and that will always be there now. I'm always going to look at them and say, I don't really fully trust Microsoft to do what's right for me, and to do what's right for the gaming community, and to do what's right for collecting and video game history. So that's all something to consider. Now, an internet connection is only required when initially setting up the console. I don't like that, but I can do that. That's no big deal. I just don't understand why we need an internet connection to set up the console, and I want to find out more about that. Well, I want to know what people do, I guess, if you don't have the internet. And yes, there are people who don't have the internet. I have customers all the time who tell me they don't have the internet. So, don't leave me a comment saying, well, everyone has the internet, because not everyone does. Some people live check to check. Some people can't afford the internet. So, and don't say, well, if you can afford the system, you can afford the internet, because video game consoles are a luxury that a lot of people like to buy. So we will see people who live check to check, people who don't have all the luxuries, but they do buy that game system with their tax return or whatever, something for their kids to have. I remember when I was a kid, we were really, really poor. And my parents told me, we can't afford to get you a Nintendo. And that Christmas, I don't know how they did it, but they managed to scrape together to find one. And people are like that today too. People don't have all the money in the world. And yeah, maybe they'll get hold of the system, but they can't afford the internet. So it does worry me that they say you have to have an internet connection to initially set up the console. I don't get that, but I'm willing to let that slide with, what they're doing here. I think it's really funny that this had to happen, but I'm glad it did, and I'm glad that, I'm not going to say they're coming around, because I don't think they're coming around. I think what happened is they saw that this wasn't going to work, and they just rectified the problem. It's not like Microsoft cares about you or me. It's not like Sony cares about you or me either. Don't get me wrong here. But they're going to do what they have to do to sell more consoles. And in the end, I think what was going to happen was they weren't going to sell nearly as many consoles. And we all know what happens if, no matter how much money they pump into games, no matter how much money they pump into their launch and their advertisement and their marketing, if no one buys the system, then third-party developers aren't going to flock to it. No one's going to develop for it. And in the end, it will crash and burn. So they saw that this was probably going to happen. That's how I think it was going to happen, at least. And they decided, well, let's fix the problems now before it's too late. I still think Microsoft has a lot of cleanup to do. I mean, so far this thing has been a PR nightmare for them, and it's probably done some irreparable damage.